So I went to Aberdeen the other day for my son's hockey, and I knew of this lady that made bread in Aberdeen, and so I messaged her, and I said, "Do you have any bread?" And she said, "Yes." So I got a loaf of bread from her, and so she mentioned that with sourdough and probably with other bread that that we can. She mentioned that with sourdough and probably with other bread that we could refresh it in the oven to make it like 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 fresh bread. So anyway, this is Kateri Godet from Village Sourdough, and Kateri, thanks for dropping that hint. And so,
Yeah.
tell us a bit about you and your journey in this awesome industry of bread making.
Sure. Thanks for having me and hosting this. Yeah, so my name is Kateri and I live in Aberdeen with my family. We're expecting our sixth kid. We have 5 kids right now and we homeschool. So I'm a stay-at-home mom full time. And so I've been trying to find ways to slow down our eating, eat healthier, go back to tradition. And so I started making sourdough bread and using local and heritage grains from some farmers we know in town. And so I've been making it for our family for about a year. And I just thought, the demand is there. People are wanting to eat healthier, learn more of these old-fashioned methods. So I'm just going to start offering that. So I actually began by giving away loaves in our town, just saying, I'm baking extra. If anyone would like to gift a friend or nominate a neighbor, please let me know so that I can gift a loaf. And once I started doing that, people then started asking, "Oh, if you don't mind, could I order one or could you bake an extra one here or there?" So then I just started opening it up for orders and it kind of took off. So I realized that, maybe this is something that I can help our community with, having some fresh and healthy bread to our door. So the name Village Sourdough kind of grew with the idea that I'm around some other small towns and some small farms and just a community, and that it takes a village to get things done. And so I called it Village Sourdough in hopes that one day maybe my kids can help in the process. And in the meantime, I can serve fresh, healthy bread to the few communities around. And kind of keep our community closer through the art of sourdough that people are hopefully finding is delicious and healthy.
All of that is amazing, and really my mandate as well, just to teach people how to eat well from their community, from their home. So while you disappeared there for a second, so while we're here, and I have this beautiful loaf of bread in my possession, you can teach me what I should do with it next.
Sounds good. So yeah, usually I've been selling them fresh and it works really easy because I am in a small community that I can just say, baking so many loaves and people will come pick up, or I'll do free deliveries. But I would like to be able to reach a little bit larger communities or to be able to produce a little bit more. And with one oven and doing everything else I'm doing at home, it's hard to bake that many fresh in a morning or in a day. So if I can freeze some dough or freeze some loaves, then that's going to make it easier. So this is a good kind of trial run for me too. Usually my loaves are a little bit larger. I know Felicia texted me last minute and said, "Can I pick up a loaf?" And I said, "I've got a couple left over in my freezer that were for my family," which they usually get the smaller ones these days. So I'll just show you here. This is one that's fresh and I use like an everything bagel seasoning. So I'm really excited to cut into this one. And so sourdough has that kind of crunchy crust on it. So it's not too hard, but it's a nice crunch. And then inside it's super soft with the fermented air bubbles. So the one that you're holding doesn't look as crisp and crunchy because it's been frozen. So we're going to try and restore that bread into more of this kind of soft bread, but restoring that crusty layer, because after we pull things out of the freezer with the ice buildup or whatnot, it could get soggy. So we're going to attempt to refresh her bread. So I think she had it out on the counter overnight. So that's going to help just speed up the time, so you're not baking it from rock hard. So sourdough originally is baked in a steam oven. So we're going to kind of recreate that steam oven environment. So she put a cookie sheet at the bottom of her pan and we're going to pour a little bit of water We'll start with that. So yeah, we'll pour a little bit of water into that cookie sheet. Yeah, probably just as much as, just to get a thin layer on the pan. Again, when you're baking sourdough, I bake a raw loaf at 450 with a hot Dutch oven. But when we're refreshing, we're going to drop the temperature to about 400 because we're not going to be baking from raw. So 400 is going to be your oven, and we're going to put that water in there to start getting a little bit more of that steam and less of a dry heat.
So I'm putting it on the bottom rack.
On the lowest rack, yep.
Okay. So, okay, now what?
All right, now 2 options. We have a spray bottle, so that'll be easier to demonstrate, which I would probably recommend too. You're gonna get just a lighter and more even covering. So you're gonna give your bread a nice total spritz all around just give it a good kind of wet down. Now I have seen some. Sorry, I'm not sure why it's been jumping me out. I might have lost you for a sec.
Hang on, you're not back yet. Just hang on a second.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
So I have seen some people completely run it underneath their tap and get it wet. I'm too nervous to try that. I don't want to wreck it. And I think that works a little bit better if it's more frozen, but we're going to give it a good wet there. Okay, so once it's fully sprayed, it's on an open face pan. We don't need to have it closed anymore. And then you can just slide that into your.
Okay. So how long would I need to leave it in there for?
So probably only 15 minutes, give or take. Because you left it out, we'll just kind of watch it. It may not take as long.
Sounds good.
A lot of it too is just kind of to your preference. So some people, if you're kind of seeing just kind of that golden color form and it looks a little bit reheated enough for you, then you can pull it out. The longer you leave it, you're going to get more of that crust forming. Because it is already fully cooked, you don't want it to overcook. And that bottom cookie sheet, as well as giving it that steam oven element, is going to help that bottom because the bottom is flatter and closer to the bake element. You don't want that to burn before we're getting that even crust.
Right, so that makes sense. Okay, so while we're waiting for that to get crispy, what are your, you mentioned something about creating like frozen sourdough starter for your community?
Yeah, so not a starter. I mean, I have had some requests to sell my starter, so that is something that I could possibly do right now. I don't have enough starter to maintain my baking needs right now. But I have seen other people more so like in the States, as I kind of follow other home bakeries, they'll prepare their sourdough because it takes about 2 days. You're fermenting it on the counter and doing stretch and folds, and it's a bit of a process. So once all the process of it is done and the fermentation has taken place, then instead of baking it, what they do is we vacuum seal basically a bread dough ball, and then people can purchase. Sorry, that you could throw in your fridge or freezer, and then you're getting a completely fresh bake when you're ready to bake it. That would just require a little bit more instruction, so it would come with an instruction card, but that might be just a nice way for people to get the ultimate fresh bread, and as well for me to be able to sell and reach out to local communities.
Yeah, and then maybe at some point you'll find a way to even reach beyond your community. I don't know how that's possible, but I know that sourdough is becoming more popular because people are realizing the health benefits of a sourdough bread.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really great for your.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say it's really great for like your gut bacteria, and it's great for diabetics as well because you're not getting the sugar spike that you would from a normal flour or the glucose. It's all being broken down in the fermentation process.
That's what I love about sourdough bread, and any kind of fermented product too, because it's so good for your gut.
Mm-hmm. So a little bit about your stuff. I just was curious, like, for some of my viewers, what can they find when they come to your page?
Right, so I teach people how to release the reliance on processed food. So I teach people how to cook from home, instead of
It's
going to
becoming a lost art.
It is a lost art, and a lot of people don't know how to cook. It's interesting that a lot of like my kids are teenagers, and their friends' parents, they don't know how to cook, right? And that really kind of flabbergasts me because, well, I had an interest in it for decades, cooking, but and then I'm noticing, maybe mental health issues or
Really?
yeah, physical issues where they're not getting the nutrients they need because they're not eating vegetables for one thing. They don't like vegetables because they never grew up with vegetables. So
Yeah.
so I'm teaching how to get your vegetables in a meal and still like to eat that meal, right? If you're not used to
Right.
eating vegetables, you don't have a palate for it. So I kind of hide the vegetables in a lot of ways. So I teach people techniques to get their daily intake of good nutrients. And the meals are going to taste good. So for example, like pizza,
Hmm.
right? All kids like pizza. So within the sauce, I hide all the vegetables. So at least they're getting some vegetables
Mm.
there. And then using homemade dough, right? Which is important. Yeah. And then so I have all kinds of recipes and video recipes and just how to make, like, not very many people, I don't think, know how to make homemade Caesar salad dressing, right? They just
Yeah.
buy a bottle of it from the store. And if you ever look at even mayonnaise, if you ever look at the label on any processed food, you're going to want to.
Oil.
So, so I don't use any seed oils. I teach people how to use the nice omega-3 oils, and it's just
Yeah.
better. It's just better. So I have all kinds of videos on that.
Okay, that's awesome. I do have lots of people asking about that, so good resource to have.
Awesome, thank you. And just to, I'm just building it all up. My website will be almost ready, and we're doing blogs and newsletters and cookbooks, and
Okay,
just having a wide offering of all kinds of different mediums like videos and reading material as well. So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
it's a passion, it's a love. Hopefully I
Mhm.
can teach one mother how to cook well for her children.
Yeah. So are you finding it's a younger demographic or an older demographic that you've reached?
That's a good question. Actually, I think it would be in the 40s, people in their 40s,
Okay, interesting.
people in their 40s. I think the young kids don't eat like normal people anymore because of that,
You
because they
TV.
don't, they like, I don't know. Yeah, it's strange from generation to generation. I find that people are eating differently. It's
Hmm.
really strange. I think the younger generation, they kind of graze all day as opposed to having set meals. And that's sort of the
Actually, yeah.
culture that they were raised in. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
even just, I'm sure you have your own story too, but like even for myself, I feel like, I was raised on a lot of good homegrown meals, but still like stripping it back more and being like, oh, this was processed, this was boxed. Like, okay, how do we, sure, my mom made certain homemade, yeah, exactly like pizza, but it's like, oh, but the sauce was bought in, or like, these elements that's like, how can we do it even more?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it's a learning curve for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And growing up in my generation, like I'm 53 right now, and in my generation, I grew up on margarine and canola
Yeah.
oil and cheese whiz, store-bought
Oh my
bread.
gosh.
Even though they made homemade bread every once in a while, it was mostly just store-bought bread and then canned Campbell soup, and Kraft
It,
dinner. I'm
and it was
surprised
cheaper
that
then.
what?
It was
What?
even cheaper then.
Yeah. So exactly. So I'm surprised I actually made it to 53. But yeah, it's I want to bring it back, just like you. I want to bring it back to the simplest, wholesome ingredients so that we can actually feed our bodies well. And I truly believe with good when a person eats good food, they are well in all ways, right? Not just physically,
Yeah.
but mentally. So I've spread
Yeah.
that, yeah, spread the word. Yeah. So I'm gonna just check and
Yeah,
see,
give it a peek.
because we're gonna be running out of time in 6 minutes anyway. So
Okay, yeah, you can give it a peek or you can pull it out and we can just go from there. Like I said, it can kind of be adjusted to people's preference. So I don't know if there's necessarily a prime
okay,
time.
let's just see if it gives us the crunch. I'll just check it.
And I mean, you can also, like, if you wanted to cut into it, you could also cut into it and throw in the oven and you're just going to get more of that toast.
Oh yeah. So yeah. So I don't know. It's pretty crispy now. I think that I could leave it for longer and it would get crispy. But yeah, this is a good tip. So all we did was spray it down with the spray bottle, and we put the pan of water on the bottom level and this on the middle top level, and sprayed it down,
Yep.
and then just put it in a 400-degree oven. And it's I'm going to I'm going to have breakfast now. This is going to be amazing. So I think that this technique really works, and that's awesome. I appreciate you mentioning that to me when I picked the bread up.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I actually have been wanting to kind of try it. So this is a nice puts it to the test here.
No, I think it works perfectly. So yeah, I'm going to I'm going to put it back in for another couple of minutes, and then I'm gonna cut into it when it cools down a bit. So yeah, but we're just running out of time. So
Yeah, sounds good.
is there anything else that you would want to say to your audience or my audience?
Yeah, I don't know. Thanks for joining. If you want to find myself, I'm on Instagram or Facebook on villagesourdough.sask, and you can just message me there for either orders, or when I do like a flash sale, when I overbake, then I'll sell that off. So villagesourdough.sask on Instagram or Facebook. And if you want to share your handle for my viewers.
Yeah, Food with Felicia Fox. Come and check me out too. So I think this was a really awesome conversation. I think we have similar ideas on how to bring good food to the people. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let me know what that crumb inside looks like. Any sourdough baker needs to see the inside. So hopefully it looks good inside as well as it does on the outside, and you can enjoy it.
I'll just do it now. We have just under 5 minutes. I'm gonna do it right now. And then my Akancha can edit this up, and she'll have her hands full. So
Sure.
okay, let me get this camera
Yeah,
situated.
so typically you'd wait for a full cool, but this works out good. Let's do it now. We're on video and we'll see the inside. So it should have some air pocket crumb in there.
I got my camera.
The thing with the bread is every loaf is different, so you'll never get the same loaf twice. Everything affects it from the fermentation time and the mix of the flours, so it's always a new treat when you cut into it.
This looks good. I'm going to show you in a second here. So here's the NP.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah, all those beautiful little air pockets, hey?
Yeah. It's all the gases and stuff from the fermentation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So you
really
can just
good.
kind of, yeah, refresh it to your like, and it's always good toasted the next day too. So, and it'll last on your counter for up to about 5 days. And if you want to keep that crust, then keep it more either wrapped in a cotton towel or a brown paper bag versus a Ziploc bag.
Oh, that's a good tip too.
Yeah, so a typical bread bag will just, kind of make it softer quicker again. But some people like that as well.
Okay, awesome. This has been great. We need to do this again. We need to do it again.
Yeah, it was really nice chatting. We can gotta love learning from each other.
Yeah.